Scooted over this wall, actually you can see right here. This is just now coming to the forefront. Started in 2006 and 2007. It's a brainchild of Tony Blair and President Bush and some of the others. The Middle East Free Trade Agreement, MEFTA. Don't have time to talk about that. Next slide, slide number 3. My notes on that. All the way down to the top of the page. Recognize these guys? Yeah, about the year 2000, Russia, realizing that they didn't want to be left out, they began something called the Eurasian Economic Community. Same goal. Single currency. A single parliamentary procedure, albeit stationed in Moscow under the watchful eye of our buddy Mr. Putin. How many of you watched Condoleezza Rice and Secretary of Defense Gates withering under his intense glare this week? More on that perhaps in a minute. Here are the member nations, and when they got to be together, can you see this massive region in here? And right here, by the way, 1/6 of the world's land mass. Amazing. Scooted up just a little bit. This is something relatively new. This is called the Pacific Island Forum, the PIF. It's going to be stationed there in Austria, and New Zealand is going to have a big part of it. This is most of the Pacific Islands right in here. Did I say Austria? I'm sorry. I meant Suva, Fiji. And they have a stated goal of a single currency, again, within the next 10 years. Slide it this way. Actually, you don't have to. Here it is. Here's South America, the Union of South American Nations, UNISAR. They have a president. Did you know that? A conglomeration economic community that started with the economics and the companies and is now moving toward political and eventually military defense systems. President Rodrigo Berga. It's headquartered in Quito, Ecuador. There are 12 members, and they have stated that they will have a common currency, parliament, and passport system by the year 2015. And finally, here we are. You guys recognize this? NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. Now you might be thinking, whoa, whoa, whoa. We are the Americans. We are strong. We have a huge economic and military. No way we're going to jump in with a bunch of other people because we're the big boys on the block. How many of you have heard of the NAFTA highway? The Trans-Texas Corridor and all that kind of stuff. And they're trying to say no, no, no. And we've got tapes on that. We did this about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Get the DVDs. We'll go into great detail. But basically right here is going to be the main port of North America, right there in Mexico. There is a freeway system, 10 lanes, 5 in each direction, that is slated to go up through Texas, through the upper Midwest, split off and go to the Northeast and up into Canada. Who is one of the biggest, they are an owner, and they are renovating this natural port and harbor and making it into what it's called a blue water capable of tons and tons and tons of ships and a commerce port of such mega size that there's another place on the planet like it. Who's tossing in most of the money? China. Oh, and by the way, who's number 2 spending? Walmart. You're like, what? How many of you remember the row, the ruffled feathers over the little RFID chip that Walmart was going to place within the cases of all the goods and services that they shipped around? You remember that? So what that means is, in your case of ketchup, that's, let's say, somewhere manufactured somewhere, who knows, in goes your little RFID chip, and it goes out the back of the factory, and there is an electronic reader that picks up the transponder signal from the RF. And it says, there goes a case of ketchup. And then it goes on to the truck, where the truck now will go through, when this is finished, a series of sensor stations. And as the truck flies through the sensor stations, all the little RF rice-size-shaped RFIDs chirp their transponder signals. And in a nanosecond, the sensor reads every single case that's on that truck and where it's going. Then it shows up at the Walmart in your neighborhood, and it comes off the truck, goes through the back door. There's a little RF reader there. Oh, there's my case of ketchup. And then it goes on the shelf. So back in at Walmart Central, where was that case of ketchup? And they know exactly where it's been and exactly where it is now. Pretty cool technology, wouldn't you say? Here's what's going to go on, though. These trucks that load up right here in Mexico on their way to Canada do not have to stop at the border, because they are, in a sense, internationalized, or more specifically, NAFTAized. And some of the big port cities in here are going to be Kansas City and some of these others on into this is Ontario, right? Ontario province, and then what's right there? You got, I'm so bad at geography. All Vancouver and all those places over here. And what's going to be happening is there's going to be Mexican and Canadian officials manning these, what will eventually become NAFTA port states or stops. And so the point of it is Texas Highway Patrol. I'm not good at my geography. Who's in here? You got Ohio and all these places. Cannot stop them when this plan is finished with its entire deal. And you're thinking, what? How many of you voted for that? I didn't vote for it. And they ask, and they're trying to press down President Bush, come on, NAFTA highway, and he continually denies it. He calls it a statewide, state-by-state transcontinental corridor. And he doesn't want to call it NAFTA. Why? Because where is it moving toward? It is moving to not just the United States, but the region of North America. Now, if I had time, I would show you the major AFTAs, free trade agreement areas, and I'd put them all on a great big map. And they're going to move around a little bit more over the next couple years. But I can tell you this, right now I can identify for you 7 major regions on the planet. And there's when they're kind of finished shaking out there, there's going to be 10. How do I know that? Because the book of Daniel, chapter 2, says that in the last days, the Antichrist himself will come from one of 10 regions, 10 nations. He's going to take 3 of them by himself, and you're going to have 10 regions, 7 heads and 10 horns, says the book of Revelation, chapter 13. And if you're like going, what are you talking about? I remember when I became a brand new Christian in 1980, and I went and got a book, and the book that I happened to find, thank you Jesus, was Hal Lindsey's book, The Late Great Planet Earth. Any of you read that one? Any of you familiar with that one? Wonderful book. And he basically said this too. I don't know how it's going to happen, but look for, in the last days, 10 nations. Now, everybody got pretty excited. Theologians got pretty excited when the United Nations went in, because they said that might be it. But was the entire planet represented by the then League of Nations, or then ultimately the United Nations? No. So they kind of went, oh, okay. And then the European Economic Community started to gain momentum. And pretty soon there were 10 nations in the European, and they went, that's the old Roman Empire. You put a map on that, that's the old Roman Empire. Ooh, it's happening. But was that encompassing the entire planet? And then, of course, you had nations number 11, 12, and all the way up to over 20 now. Oh, so that can't be it either. And now I want everybody, myself included, to look up, notice what is happening on the planet. What? That all of the nations are realizing we cannot compete economically, politically, militarily by ourselves. You had better join a region or get left out in the cold. Can you see that that's where the planet is moving? And what's the big deal with the single currency? Because when you take the currency out of a nation, the dollar, you take George Washington's face off the front. To us Americans, does that hold a little bit of traditional historical significance? Take Abraham Lincoln right off it and put a nondescript picture of a bridge or a building that does not exist. Oh, and of course, don't forget, in God we trust. That's got to go.